The Secret Life of Walter Mitty is a theatrical film that was released on December 25th, 2013. The movie, starring, produced, and directed by Ben Stiller, follows Walter Mitty, a man who works as a photojournalist for Life magazine. When the company wishes to print its final issue before fully converting online, Mitty discovers that he cannot find the negative needed for the cover of the magazine. Henceforth, this leads him to go on a hunt for the missing image for the duration of the film. But what makes Walter special is that he has the ability to lucid daydream, or in other words, he has an overactive imagination that causes him to see scenarios in his mind that seem almost real. Think Seymour Parrish, a character played by Robin Williams in the film One Last Shot, if you've seen that movie. For the remainder of the film, Walter continues to daydream all of these crazy adventures and fantasies in his head while sporadically getting pulled back into the real world every now and again. Overall, I thought this was a decent film, but it wasn't anything spectacular. But that's not what I'm here to review today. Oh no, there's a lot more to this film than I'm letting on. I'm only giving you the basic just needed to understand the premise of this episode of the Powerpuff reboot, The Secret Life of Blossom. Powerpuff. And no, I think I'll just stick to The Secret Life of Blossom, thank you very much. It begins when Blossom finds herself wandering around her Elemental High School's auditorium with hopes to join the Model UN Club. But sadly for her, she ends up getting rejected by the only good thing to come out of this reboot, my boy Barry.
Dibs on Norway! Sorry, it's full.
My man!
Don't worry, I only like him ironically. Anyway, her sisters spend the rest of the episode attempting to convince her to try a bunch of different clubs instead as a way to expand her horizons a bit. She's got plenty of alternatives like Basket Weaving Club, Paper Airplane Club, I'm not really sure how to read this one out loud. Well, basically, the remainder of the episode takes the idea of the secret life of Walter Mitty and applies it to Blossom imagining herself in these random scenarios that pertain to the particular club she's thinking of at the moment. Let's start with the first one, shall we? Bubbles suggests to Blossom that she joins the art club, since it's a hobby Bubbles likes to keep up with whenever she has the free time. This leads Blossom to imagine herself painting during ye olden days in what I personally consider to be the least interesting of the three situations, so at least we're getting it out of the way first. This whole scenario is pretty bland and tiresome to watch because nothing particularly interesting ever occurs. I mean, yeah, Bubbles is referred to as a squire at one point despite not showing any representation of a higher social class or apprenticeship to a knight, but other than that it's just Blossom painting a picture of a chair and people getting mad at her for it. I mean, who's gonna find a bunch of peasants arguing over the sex appeal of a chair to be particularly interesting? You know, now that I say that out loud, I guess it actually is worth talking about. I shit you not. Some of these peasants begin to argue over whether or not this chair is too provocative. Yes, they're essentially arguing that a chair has too much sex appeal.
Well, I don't like that chair. It's far too provocative.
I agree. Someone should paint a sweater on that chair.
That just makes no fucking sense. I mean, it's just bullshit. Fuck.
Look, I'm not normally one to kink shame, but a chair? After some more random arguing, the townspeople summon a robot which proceeds to step on Buttercup and terrorize the rest of the townsfolk while Blossom lets out an epic no because everything is falling apart. This essentially becomes the running gag of the episode as it continues to happen several more times before the ending. Keep in mind that, as I just said, the townspeople summon the giant robot to terrorize themselves. Why though? What were you hoping to accomplish here? I mean, if I had a giant mechanical monstrosity of destruction, I'd use it to crush the mortal souls of my enemies into oblivion. But hey, to each their own, I suppose. The second club Blossom looks at is one that Buttercup suggests she tries out, titled Future Astronauts Club. In this daydream sequence, Blossom imagines herself exploring a distant planet with her faithful robot companion, cleverly titled except not really R2-B2. See, what they did is they took R2-D2, they put a line through the D, and made it a B for Buttercup.
Fucking genius!
You know, for a highly elaborate astronomical moderation facility, it sure is empty, wouldn't you say? One would assume there would be more than a single person monitoring a mission consisting of the first human to ever land on an alien planet, but then again, what do I know? I don't work for NASA. So Blossom and her robot ripoff continue to explore the planet's surface and come across a four-armed Darth Vader who turns out to be none other than the fuckboy himself.
We have tracked you Earthlings for many light years. I demand to know one thing.
Shut the fuck up.
But there is one thing to keep in mind. This isn't really Jared, it's Blossom's fantasized version of Jared, meaning anything he says or does isn't actually real and has no reflection on the true character in the show, which further adds to how bland and dull he appears to be when we see the real Jared on screen, which is also a rarity in and of itself. I'm really starting to get tired of wasting oxygen on this one-dimensional piece of cardboard. So after some very uncomfortable flirting between Blossom and this figment of her imagination, the two of them make peace among their civilizations by drinking soda together. Never mind the fact that Blossom is wearing a spacesuit with a visor that's preventing her from actually drinking anything, but who really pays attention to that sort of thing anyways? I do.
And now, in the spirit of intergalactic friendship, and maybe more in the future.
Bad touch! Bad touch! Stranger danger!
This whole sequence is almost as forgettable as the first one for me because it ultimately provides very little entertainment value in my opinion. But the reason why I prefer it over the Renaissance Daydream is because at least the giant robot appearing at the end of this dream makes sense here. It is a sci-fi setting after all, so naturally a giant robot could appear and I wouldn't question it. As for the other dreams though, that's just a random ass pull. Oh yeah, and she does the epic no while Buttercup gets crushed again. Noticing a trend here? I forgot to mention, before the robot appears, Blossom commits several acts of war against the alien race by doing things that you and I would consider polite. These things being using a coaster for her drink and apologizing.
On our planet, using a coaster is an act of war!
That just makes no fucking sense. I mean, it's just bullshit. Fuck.
I'm guessing the writers wanted to take a more ironic approach to the situation. Whatever, it's alien culture. They can get away with it. So back in reality once again, Blossom denies the idea of joining the Future Astronauts Club and looks around for a third possibility. One particular club catches her attention out of the corner of her eye, titled Breakdance Club. This daydream harkens back to the style of 80s dance movies, chock full of the typical fashion, music, and lingo that was popular at the time.
You're one fly honey.
Yo, I perused this contract for reals, real. Ooh, step up, girl. You showed that jive, turkey.
It's humorous to me that they're trying to poke fun at a lot of the trends and language that was popular back during that time because it's the exact same thing this reboot tries to capitalize on when playing it straight. We as a society look back at the previous decades and remember all of the great things that were taking place during that time, but we also tend to make fun of a lot of the fads that are considered outdated by today's standards. A decade or two from now, people are going to look back at shows like this and just shake their heads the same way we do towards things like Rocket Power or Yo Yogi because of the shameless attempt to take advantage of the current era. It's just a poor reflection of everything that's going on right now, and in a way, this episode is foreshadowing what other people are going to do to it given a few years' time.
I can't. Can't what?
And don't forget to take a selfie with your Smoji and tag it with our slogan, #Looks are everything.
Need I say more? You know how most cartoons always have that Save the Rec Center episode? Well, this here is the Powerpuff Reboot's take on the whole cliche. I am at the very least grateful that we don't have an entire episode dedicated to this overused trope and instead only stuck to the idea for a couple of minutes.
Nothing can stop us now.
Man, the voice direction on this show sometimes, let me tell you. Everything takes a turn for the worst when Princess shows up with her money gang to inform the group of kids that her father just bought out the rec center for the sole purpose of kicking everyone out. Why? Because she's an asshole. In true 80s fashion, the only way these kids can save their rec center is by beating Princess in a dance-off. And what with this being Blossom's fantasy and all, she's the one who steps up to take her down. Now to be perfectly honest, the beginning of this sequence is less than impressive. I mean, she calls those moves?
Booyah! You've been served.
That was so awful, it was beyond description.
Next we get a montage where the characters begin to give nods to a bunch, and I do mean a bunch, of musical performances as the dance battle progresses. Ranging from the Village People to Madonna to Gene Kelly, there's quite the number of throwbacks to popular moments that have lasted throughout the ages. Well, this curb stomp, if you can call it that, allows Blossom to win back the deed to the rec center, and Princess gets her ultimate comeuppance when Barry swoops in to save the day. He really is the true hero of this show, ladies and gentlemen. And if you thought I would go this entire dance daydream without at least mentioning Dance Pants, well, you've got another thing coming.
Here are the fat beats to beat your fat heads. Burn!
Yeah, that special was 100 times better than this one, but I'll save my thoughts for the eventual review a long time from now. Just like the last 2 times a Daydream ended, a random giant robot comes out of nowhere, Buttercup gets stepped on, Blossom gives a hefty yell, I think you get the point. I really don't like this robot coming out of nowhere to end each sequence, especially because it just feels like a way to abruptly end the events taking place without the need to come up with a more fitting method to snap Blossom out of it. If they could have come up with a different occurrence for each dream sequence, I would be less strict on it because there'd be more rationality behind it. And also, what they should have done was have the astronaut dream with the robot first, because it would have been more fitting to introduce it there instead of the Renaissance period of all places. It could have slowly gotten more ridiculous as each dream went on, but the staff chose not to capitalize on that method of humor at all. Now this final segment is where most of my problems with this episode begin to take place. After coming out of her final fantasy, she is presented with an opportunity to either join Dystopian Sci-Fi Writers Club or reclaim her spot at the Model UN Club after Barry tells her it's open again. I just have one question.
¿Por qué no los dos?
I'm serious though. Is there a reason why she can't do both? It's not like there's a law at school saying she can't be a member of more than one club. What's stopping her from participating in each activity? She never even discusses the possibility of the 2 events occurring simultaneously, so the end result of this episode doesn't seem, plausible. The entire problem here was Blossom finding a substitute for the club she wanted to join. But now that her spot is open again, the problem resolves itself. Why wouldn't she jump at the chance to get back in? She decided against joining any of the 3 clubs she put some thought into, so logically she would still prefer to be a part of the Model UN Club, and yet she decides to join the writing club on a whim without doing any thinking about it whatsoever? It renders the entire point of the episode moot, doesn't it? She spends her time thinking of all these other possibilities, ultimately siding against them, and joining this random club without putting any effort into determining whether or not it's a good idea.
That just makes no fucking sense. I mean, it's just bullshit. Fuck.
This decision makes the entire episode feel superfluous in my eyes because nothing was achieved through these dream sequences. If we were to remove everything that doesn't matter in this episode, this is what the final result would be.
I'm here to sign up for the Model UN. Dibs on Norway.
Sorry, it's full.
A few moments later.
Blossom! Bobby just quit Model UN to join Breakdancing Club.
Really? Yay! Powerpuff Girls fighting crime.
Did you notice how everything just became obsolete? The biggest flaw comes from the way Blossom ends up joining the writing club instead of the UN club for a reason that's never explained. It was plainly established that her
Entire career trajectory hinged on being Norway in the Model UN Club.
Is that no longer important? Is this null and void now that the Dystopian Sci-Fi Writers Club offers her something that she couldn't get out of the Model UN Club? I'm utterly confused about what's being presented to me. What am I supposed to take away from this? Because the way I see it, I just wasted 10 minutes of my life watching Blossom daydream about events that ultimately lead to nothing. It's not like she came to a dramatic conclusion or a life-changing epiphany. Unlike the movie this is based off of, where the daydream sequences actually meant something, these just felt like smaller ideas that the writers couldn't flesh out completely, so they decided to jam-pack them into 3 mini-stories within one episode instead. Were these sequences supposed to serve as a way for Blossom to express her creative writing ability? Because I'm sorry, if that's the case, the payoff still wasn't worth it. It left me with a lukewarm feeling because, while yes, Blossom did find a solution in the end, it wasn't the one that seemed rational. Oh, and remember all the way back in my very first video where I mentioned a certain quote from one of the producers?
The last thing they want to do is age them up, put them in roller skates, and send them to Mars.
Looks like we can check the 3rd item off of that list now. Aged up in wrinkle gruff gals, roller skates and Princess Buttercup, sent to what at least could be Mars in The Secret Life of Blossom. Nice. So ultimately, this episode is what I would consider to be about average at best. It didn't become unbearable at any point while I was watching until the end, but the sheer repetitiveness behind Blossom's daydreams makes the episode get very dull very fast. It didn't help that Blossom's final choice felt very unsatisfying due to a rapid decision-making process. Overall, I can't say this is the worst the reboot's done. Believe me, this is far from that. But I wouldn't say this was a pleasant watch either. In the end, this one fits right into that middle category. Not terrible, not good, just lackluster.